What did I do to deserve this? Why am I cursed to walk these paths alone? I've been Terrian all my life. Ever since I can remember, I've been wandering these woods, always searching, never finding anything but secrets. Secrets I didn't ask for, secrets I don't want. It started the first time I found a skeleton in the woods. I was 7 years old and I ran to my parents screaming. But when they looked at the bones, all they saw was a story from long ago, nothing more than history. And when I asked if we could take it to the police, my dad just pulled me close and whispered, "Some things are better left where they are, honey." That was the first lesson I learned about this place. Some things are better left where they are. The second lesson was harder to learn. It was the day I tripped and fell into an abandoned well, but instead of water, I landed on solid ground. Beneath the town of Ashwood lies a labyrinth of tunnels, carved by hand out of solid rock. I explored as far as I could, venturing through the darkness until I found a single, unbroken candle floating in the center of a stone chamber. I was mesmerized by its light. It was warm, inviting. I wanted to reach out and touch it. And that's when the third lesson came to me. Don't trust what you can't see. Because the moment my fingers brushed the flame, the entire labyrinth rumbled. And as the candle sputtered and died, I heard a voice that echoed from every wall, whispering, "Don't trust what you can't see." It chased me as I fled through the tunnels, desperate to find the exit. It taunted me with promises of knowledge and power, tempting me to stay, to explore further, but I refused. And when I finally broke free from the labyrinth and stumbled out into the sunlight, I knew I had narrowly escaped whatever lurks beneath Ashwood. Whatever it is, it feeds on curiosity. And that brings us to the fourth lesson. Curiosity killed my cat. That's why when my friend Liam mentioned an old legend about the tunnels beneath our town, I told him to forget it. That's just a myth. Old wives' tales that serve no purpose but to scare children. My fifth lesson, however, was unavoidable. It came in the form of an arsonist who set fire to the tunnels, Ashwood, and the surrounding woods. All around me, people lost their homes and their lives. And though I survived, a part of me died inside, leaving me with my sixth lesson. Even ghosts have enemies, because while our town mourned the loss of those souls trapped in the tunnels, I felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe because I knew there was something wicked down there, something I never wanted to be a part of. And yet when the people of Ashwood rebuilt, I stayed. Despite the danger, despite the nightmares, I couldn't leave. Not without uncovering the truth. Not without answers. And 7 years later, I was finally ready to take the next step. I've always dreamed of being a journalist, writing stories that matter, helping people. And last year, I took the biggest risk of my life and applied to the only newspaper in our county, hoping to earn my first paycheck as a reporter. But the position required more experience than I had. So they hired me as an intern, asking me to prove myself by writing about local folklore and legends. My first assignment was easy enough. Our local library has extensive archives on early settlers, farming methods, logging, and mining accidents. All interesting, but not exactly thrilling. But when I hit the archives section, I discovered something unexpected. Hidden in the back, tucked away in a dusty folder, was a faded newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local orphans vanish without a trace." It detailed the sudden disappearance of 12 children from St. Jude's Orphanage almost 100 years ago. The article suggested foul play, but offered no suspects or theories. I filed the story away, intending to use it as material for my research. But then another clipping caught my eye. This one detailing a string of unsolved murders from the same year. Each victim had been bludgeoned to death, and the motive for each murder remained unknown. But something about the dates stood out. And as I compared the timelines, a horrifying realization struck me. Both the children and the victims disappeared on the same nights. Could the two mysteries be connected? Was the killer targeting the orphanage? And if so, what happened to the prime suspect? The missing children? My editor approved my plan to investigate, and I immediately noticed a problem. No one in Ashwood seemed to know anything about the case, even though the orphanage used to stand right in the middle of town. The building had been torn down decades ago, and now my curiosity was piqued. I wanted to know more. But when I started digging for clues, I quickly learned my 7th lesson. You can run, but you can't hide. There were no official records. No one remembered, and those who did were too afraid to talk. I was even warned to drop the story, to let it go, but I didn't listen. I went to the oldest member of our community, a woman named Agnes, who everyone calls Granny Willow. She agreed to talk to me and told me a story that chilled me to the bone. She spoke of a place known as the 13th Door, a hidden entrance in the tunnels beneath Ashwood that served as a passage to the underworld. And according to local lore, the orphans wandered through the 13th Door willingly, lured by the promise of a better life. Or perhaps they were tricked, taken advantage of. Whatever happened, none of them ever returned. With this new information, I was determined to solve the mystery once and for all. First, I checked the local cemetery, hoping to locate the orphans' graves. But after hours of searching, I found nothing. So I ventured into the woods, scouring the forest floor for any sign of a burial. And that's when I found it, a small mound covered in leaves and branches. I cleared the debris, revealing a crude wooden cross bearing the inscription, "In loving memory of the lost souls of St. Jude's." I knew I was close to the truth, and my instincts led me to a clearing where a circle of stones stood in a precise pattern. Each monolith represented one of the lost children, and as I walked among them, I felt their sorrow, their confusion, their fear. Suddenly, the earth rumbled beneath my feet. I turned to flee, but before I could move, a voice boomed from above. Curiouser and curiouser. Startled, I hid in the bushes as a dark figure descended from the trees. It was a man, tall and imposing with a twisted grin. He introduced himself as Decker, the guardian of the 13th Door. He explained that he had been watching me and believed I was destined to become the 13th lost soul. He believed that I would join the others, adding to their suffering and strengthening the entity that resided in the tunnels. He warned me to abandon my investigation, promising that if I did, he would spare my life, but I refused. I stood my ground, determined to uncover the truth. And that's when Decker revealed his true form. He transformed into a monstrous creature, all sharp edges and gnashing teeth. And as he lunged toward me, I realized my 8th lesson. There is no happy ending. Decker was relentless. He attacked again and again, each blow fueled by his desire to drag me into the underworld. But I managed to fend him off. Scrambling back, I stumbled upon one of the standing stones. It was cold and unyielding, and in that moment, I understood my 9th lesson. Sometimes the only way forward is through. Taking a deep breath, I charged at Decker. But despite my efforts, he overpowered me. As darkness closed in, I felt despair envelop me. I thought I would die here, become another lost soul. But then I heard a familiar voice calling my name. It was my editor, Mr. Bellwether, along with several police officers. They had come to rescue me, and as they fought to free me from Decker's clutches, I knew I had survived. I had defeated the monster, yet even in victory, I felt a profound sadness. The lost children remained trapped in the underworld. Their suffering had only been amplified. But as I watched the authorities seal the entrance to the tunnels, I realized my final lesson. Sometimes endings are just beginnings. We may not be able to change the past, but we can choose how to move forward. Ashwood was forever changed. The discovery of the 13th Door brought both tragedy and closure. The lost souls may never return, but their story will live on. And maybe that's the only way to ensure that even in the darkest of places, hope can still be found.